Well, that's about tax. And about energy, you can find out what you're supposed to do. But if you've got a smart meter, for example, the smart meters apparently haven't been updated to the new tariff. So you won't actually know what you're supposed to be paying. So your smart meter right now is probably about as useful as a chocolate fire guard. But if you've got a smart meter, I need to hear from you. I need you to tell me precisely what it's telling you. Because do you even know what your tariff is now? Do you even know what your next bill is going to be like? If the first bill arrives on your doorstep this morning is more than you can afford, what are you going to do about that? 0344 499 1000. But let's talk now to Sir John Redwood, Conservative MP for Wokingham. He's up at Birmingham at Tory party conference as well. Sir John, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We've been speaking to Trevor Kavanagh from The Sun, who's got a column in The Sun this morning saying, let's not forget the real enemy is the Labour Party. Could you please remind some of your colleagues there to stop stabbing each other in the back and get on with governing the country?
Well, I think that's very good advice, Mike, and let's hope the minority that are being a bit difficult understand that. I'm not one to stop people having different views, but it must be done in a helpful spirit, and it must be about improving how we govern the country, because we will be judged in a couple of years' time by whether we made a good job of governing, and that immediately means solving the energy crisis for consumers by giving them some money back and lowering the bills, and it means trying to see off the recession, which is otherwise coming our way as we see the main central banks of the world jacking up interest rates and trying to create a big slowdown.
I mean, at close of play on Friday and even late last night, I was convinced that this 45 pence tax rate had disappeared and would disappear. It now appears that it's not going to disappear, it's going to remain. I don't think that's a very good look for Liz Truss. What do you think?
I think it was unfortunate. I didn't recommend that tax cut to them. As someone who likes tax cuts, that wasn't on my list. When they said they'd do it, I was relaxed about it and would have supported them, but they've now decided it's too much hassle. So my advice to them now is stick with the plan of lower taxes, make sure enough money goes to those particularly who don't have very much money, because we need to sustain demand and help them. And above all, let's bust that recession, otherwise it will be very difficult in the general election.
Yes, it will be. But the problem now for Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, though, is that people will think every time they announce a new policy, if you make enough noise and batter enough drums, they'll drop it.
Well, I'm sure Kwasi will be aware of that, and he will now need to reassure us that everything else stands and that he's learnt the lesson. I think they regard it as a communications failure. So next time they want something bold, they should do a bit more preparatory work.
Yes. I mean, you've always been a very loyal cabinet minister, and outside of the cabinet, you've been very loyal to the party. Why is it that so many of your colleagues can't see that that's the way to be?
I've no idea. I mean, some of them can't. Some of them have been disruptive to more than one leader. I can understand a disagreement in principle with a leader. But it shouldn't be about you. It shouldn't be about saying, well, I didn't get the job I wanted, so I'm now going to upend the leader. It should be about what is in the national interest. How do you help all your constituents? How do you help the wider nation to greater prosperity and freedom, which is what I thought we were about.
Yes. And in terms of things like the interest rates, the pound-dollar ratio and the bond yields and all of those things, I mean, aside from interest rates, we see the markets have somewhat calmed down from the sort of febrile days of last week. I mean, interest rate-wise, do you think it's right that the Bank of England should be blamed for some of this problem?
Well, of course they should. I mean, remember that everybody in the debate tells me that the Bank of England is independent on interest rates, and it is true that they uniquely have the power to say what the official bank rate is, and they announce that from time to time. And I don't think any politician in power tries to change their mind on that. It's done independently. But what isn't so independent is whether they buy and sell bonds and create a lot of money. That was first done by Chancellor Darling under Gordon Brown and has then been done by successive chancellors. The most of all was done by Rishi Sunak. And that was a joint policy. It had to be agreed with the Chancellor, and the Chancellor and taxpayers underwrite the bond buying of the Bank of England. So I think the Bank of England did get it wrong over the last few weeks. I think they threatened the market with too big a hike in mortgage rates. They then told the market they were going to be selling bonds to get the price of the bonds down, which is the way you put the mortgage rates up. And then when that went too far, the Bank of England changed its mind and said, you know what, we didn't mean that, we'll buy bonds for a bit instead. So it's been pretty erratic, and I'm now concentrating on what happens when we come to the end of the few days when they are supporting the market, because my message to the Bank of England is try and create calmer markets and don't threaten the markets again with sky-high mortgage rates and bond sales, because that would destabilise us all over again.
And what about people who this morning are waking up to the sort of the first day of the new dawn in terms of energy bills and energy prices? Because I think a lot of people aren't that clear precisely what is being done. The government is giving money, I think, to the tune of £66 a month from this point on for about 4 or 5 months in a row. But, you know, what should people be looking at if they suddenly get a bill that lands on their front doorstep, which they can't pay? What are they meant to do about that?
Well, they should know that the government has put a cap on it all in terms of how much you pay for each unit of energy you use. So, you know, if you turn all the heating on and leave it on for too long, you're still going to end up with a very big bill.
Yeah.
But there is that cap on it, so if your use is similar or moderate, as most people's has to be, then you're not going to get the huge surge in the bills that would otherwise have happened because of the level at which the gas and electricity price has reached. But the bill is going to be more than it was before the price cap was raised. And to help with that, the government has obviously given the £400 to every household. It's given extra money to pensioners, and it's given quite a bit of extra money to those on benefits on top. And they need it because the bill is going to be quite a bit higher than it was before the end of September.
Right. And a final question, Kwasi Kwarteng's speech this afternoon, does he walk into the job as Chancellor and keep it until the next election? Because there's a lot of people who wonder whether he's going to last.
Well, I hope he does, because I hope he doesn't make another mistake or have to do another U-turn. What he's saying about growth is right. What he's saying about how lower taxes are a good idea is right. Indeed, if you set some lower tax rates, you collect more revenue, which is a double win, isn't it? We've got more money to spend on public services, and the people who are making the money are happier and are more likely to come here, stay here, invest here, create jobs here. That's a good message. Kwasi should get it out there, and then he'll have plenty of support.
Sir John Redwood, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Conservative MP for Wokingham.